thank you. This is my child. She is 25. She finished college at 20.
Yes.
And she's been kind of working as a theater contractor.
A theater contract, freelance designer in theater.
And she's been doing tutoring.
Acting, some, I guess, freelance education is...
Freelance.
Yeah, I just like freelancing a lot.
For the last 5 years.
Stuff.
And she has a YouTube, and it's Ruckus Recluse, and I'll link it. So we're going to continue.
Okay,
so hello. This is Miss Andre with another homeschool vlog, and this is my daughter.
Yeah, I was like, where are we going with this? If you want me to say things.
This is my daughter, Jordan.
Hello.
And so this is part 2 of our videos. Yeah, that makes sense. And I want to talk about life after homeschooling, because everyone sees homeschooling, everyone sees the journey, but people don't understand what happens afterwards. Like, how do you adult? How do you adult differently from other adults? How are you doing?
I mean, that's a hard question to answer, because I don't know how to compare how I'm doing against how other people with a more normal, I guess, more standard education are doing.
Well, I mean, you have a bunch of friends who you graduated with and they didn't homeschool and you did, and you're close to them.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, how does anyone do after college? We don't know what's happening. I feel like after, like, we did formalize, I did get the formalized college education.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm doing
a good college if you were going to go to grad school. It's a stringent college.
And I would say I'm doing just about the same as other people in my line of work, honestly.
That's true.
Because I'm an artist. And I honestly, I think, like, not to be an not to say I'm doing better or worse than anyone else, but I do more theater work than
most graduated artists.
Most graduated artists, and I don't know if that's because I've spent my entire life doing art in an environment that told me that I should be, and that I've been raised to make time for art and not for and put other things aside for it.
So let me summarize this, because I'm an artist too. But my parents were like, oh, you art so pretty. That's going to be a lovely hobby for you. And when I recognized that I had children who may or may not have been artists, my son is an artist hobbyist.
Yes.
We figured that out. We were like, if you're an artist, then please art. And so she was never taught to put art on the back burner.
I've put many things on the back burner for
but not art. So when her friends and she graduated, her friends all took real jobs and art part-time, and she arts full-time in supplements.
Yes. So I think like the mindset of prioritization is different just based off of what was encouraged.
Wow. Okay.
I think that is the main significant difference. It's not that I'm doing better or worse than them.
Yeah, I'm making the same amount of money. You're just doing more art and some supplementing. They're doing more supplementing and less art.
Yeah.
Y'all are all in the same place financially.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I don't think any of us were where we were hoping to be by this time at this age, but I think that has more to do with the socioeconomic standing of where, like, the country and like how
the last 18 months,
our industry and stuff like that, than it does with us and or our work ethic per se. Most of us are living at home, which is not exactly
the ones who can stand their parents.
The ones who can stand their parents do live at home, and the other...
She's living at home. This is literally my bed,
yes,
if you haven't noticed.
The rest of us make do. Now, I do have some friends from, like, other things I've done who don't live at home, which I was like...
Are they your age?
They are just about my age.
Are they married?
No. Some of the one's getting married, right? Like very soon. One was living with a longtime partner. A lot of them don't. One is moving out of home right now. But a lot of them are from the north, and that might be a difference in culture.
Oh, in the north, you get out of Dodge. I was out of the house at 19.
I think that might be a difference in culture.
It is.
And I like to say that I'm not racially ambiguous at all, but I'm very culturally ambiguous.
I'll give you that.
I was born in the North. I was raised mostly in the South by Northern parents, but I've spent a lot of time in the North. And and the majority of our family has roots in Jamaica. So sometimes I look around and I'm like, what is everyone else doing? I don't know if any of this makes sense. Am I the weird one, or is everyone else just doing wild stuff? I'm just kidding. So I I'm very, it's very, I don't know what normal is supposed to look like on a regular occasion culturally. But I think that might just be a North versus the South thing. A lot of my friends who are from the South still live close to home. One has moved to...
I understand you're the parents.
One has moved to DC, but that's, I think they're just very much done with being in Georgia. And they're doing a year-long fellowship that gives them housing.
Do I know this person?
No, they do. You know, you do not.
Okay.
So I don't.
Oh, you just got back from a summer-long fellowship.
Yeah, those are the friends I'm talking about at the moment. I had a very specific point I was getting to. I can get it back. I believe in me. So that might also, it might be an economic thing, North versus South.
Well, there's more arts work in my hometown of New York.
Yes.
Than there is. I mean, Atlanta's not bad for Black artists.
Yes.
But I grew up surrounded by art. And so there's just more ways to work in arts.
Yeah, the opportunities are very different, North versus South. I feel like the cost of living is different. I feel like the cost of living is better here, but harder to break into, if that makes sense. It's harder to start, but once you start making enough money, it's harder to maintain, I believe. So the cost of living is high, but it's hard to make enough. Is not as high as up north, but it's hard to make that much money until you get to the point where you make that much money.
Critical mass.
It's easier to keep it. Well, they can get the amount of money it takes to live on their own, but it's harder to keep that constant.
Yeah. So, what about socialization? It's what everyone asks.
I'm weird, and I don't know if that's a homeschool thing, a slightly neurodivergent thing, or just that's what my personality was always going to be thing.
Here's what I think about that. I'm weird. And I don't know a weird adult who doesn't have a weird child. And
I spent a lot of weird my time
homeschoolers, weird people tend to go out of homeschool. But there are weird people in public school, and there are weird kids over there.
It's hard. I don't know. I think I was strange, kind of, in that friend group that from the summer. It's not like I didn't stick out or anything.
Well, you're certainly the most colorful person in the room.
But I am certainly the most colorful person in the room most of the time. And I don't know if that is a homeschool thing. A personality
No, the homeschoolers, when you would walk in, the homeschoolers would look at you.
Even the homeschoolers think I'm weird. So, I'm not sure that's a homeschool thing per se. So I'm not a very good gauge of what normality should look like.
So when we talk about socialization, first of all, you all know that I argue, do we want socialization? Do we want same-age people teaching our people to be adults? Or do we want them learning from adults how to be adults? Also, when you reach a level of adulthood, are you taking responsibility for your place in the world?
Well, I can talk on that probably. So as a teenager, the socialization I got was from adults. Some people my age, but who are also mainly being socialized by adults. And we were very pretentious about it. We were, oh God, I would not hang out with a high school me. She was annoying. It's why do kids do... people your age, please shut up. You pretentious child. Read a book or something. Oh, wait, you're already doing that, and you feel so good about yourself. Please shut up. as I think it was useful in the way that what I have considered adults is like people around 10 years older than me, have always liked me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Adults like me. Mm-hmm. People older than me like me a lot.
Mm-hmm. All my friends tend to be 10 years older than me.
Yeah.
I just now have a friend who's 10 years younger than me.
And that I have some friends who are younger than me now. Mm-hmm. I've always been the youngest person in a room generally, so it's a little weird to be older than other people. Mm-hmm. But I get along fairly well with people older than I am. But it's a weird place to be, though, where, like, in a professional setting where you are both baby and also talk and sort of empathize with people 10 years older than you pretty easily. Because sometimes people seem surprised that you are able to have this conversation, like not like the ability to have this conversation,
but when they realize that you're not a 30-year-old woman,
that their ability to engage in their conversations is generally similar. I think I'm starting to engage more with people my own age more.
Well, there are just more of them.
There's just more of them around, and now older people are starting to seem a bit weirder than they ever have. Which is a little...
The jadening is happening.
It's a little strange. I'm like, oh, why are you...
angry all of a sudden?
Me? Or them?
No, the next generation. I'm not naming generation names because that's horrible. But I'm starting to see, I think COVID has hardened a lot of older people in the next generation above you. They're starting to get like really...
I mean, we've always been I am very straddling the line of Gen Z and millennial. I was born in 96, and people cannot decide which year that's supposed to end. So I'm literally straddling that line. And I think both millennials and Gen Z people are like, I'm just about sick of this o'clock. And millennials learned it, I feel like, in a more painful way. Where they were like, here's what you have to do to be successful in life. They did the things and they were like, that is entirely what's supposed to happen. No. Unfortunate for you.
You've been lying.
And Gen Zers watched. And they watched their older siblings do everything they were supposed to do and then kind of get screwed over. And so the millennials are jaded from having things sort of pulled out from underneath them. And Gen Z knew better to ever expect fairness in the first place.
Wow. Okay, talk about, because when it's time to vote, when it's time to do politics things, you bully the rest of your family. So talk about how you've engaged in the political world around us.
See, I don't know how to come off like I think I'm super unique or something, but you also engaged me in the voting process at a young age. Mom did a lot of poll work. I
was a poll supervisor, yeah.
And poll work, you kind of tell the people around you that you're gonna be working. And second, as a homeschooler with a strange amount of flexible time, I was voluntold to do a lot of stuff, like poll work, as young as you're legally allowed to do it. So I was very engaged with like knowing what the process was by like 14. Which is, I think, very unusual, probably.
That's as young as you were allowed to do it.
And I'm like, as an adult, I'm realizing that people do not understand the process of voting at all.
Because they be talking about some crazy stuff.
And I'm like, and I've known the exact steps of the process for most of my life at this point. So I feel like I was not particularly interested in politics or voting at that age. Because I never saw much of the correlation between voting and like real world things. I was like, every time this comes up, a bunch of people just start saying raggedy things around me. So I prefer to avoid this topic altogether. And then people would say things, I'm like, I disagree with you mentally, but I'm not going to have this argument with you. And so it seemed better for it to be irrelevant because it seemed to make life harder. Around college, 2016, I realized that I do not have what is the word I'm looking, the privilege of not being engaged. Because it became very obvious.
Your junior, senior year in college.
Yeah. It became very obvious what the correlations were and how they were going to affect me. Which I had always voted because I was from
Jordan
family.
Not only votes, she gets the spreadsheet. She sits at the table. She looks up people that she doesn't already know. She calls us to the table. She makes us read the things. She calls her friends. She calls she calls my friends' children's. And she makes sure everyone has voted.
Because I believe in first being informed. I don't believe in telling people what they're going to do. Which if a lot of my friends would just be like, who are you voting for? I'm like, no. That's not how this works, my guy. I know I'm the only one in this group that watches the news. I come from a news watching family. But you're going to know what's going on to make informed decisions. And I've always voted. At 18, I voted when it came up. But that's because I always knew when it was happening because I was there. I woke up 6 a.m. to make sure everyone else got the chance to do it. So I voted sort of as a routine. As a poll worker, you vote a little early and you go in and for 12 hours. And then you go home. And so I've always voted because I was always in the vicinity of voting. And then around 2016, I was like, oh no, this is important. It is time to make sure everyone is voting, and I am in the position to know exactly how all of those steps are done. So ignorance is not going to be an excuse if you're in my vicinity.
How did homeschooling help you deal with the panoramic, the panini, the COVID-nator? So the words we're not supposed to say on YouTube that no one cares about.
So I feel like I was in a very different position than a lot of people. I had a couple of friends from childhood whose parents worked at the CDC. So as it was coming up, I was like in my D&D group, and they were like, maybe buckle up and prepare to be inside for a bit. And I was like, noted. And so, once in a while, I would get text messages be like, be prepared to go inside. And what we got like a final one was like, it's time, have everything ready.
Yes, someone told me buy 6 months worth of food, and I did.
And we got that message, and I got my brother. We went to Walmart, and I used 2 paychecks on a Nintendo Switch and Animal Crossing, and I was like, time to go inside. And at the beginning, that was not very hard for me. Some people struggled at the very beginning because they would never had to do that before. And the word have to chafed and made you like I didn't go outside if I did.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an introvert, but having to introvert.
I'm naturally an introvert. Great. I'm naturally a homebody. And I would go outside if I had something to do. But my default setting is home. So I was just sort of like, it was said, be at your default. And I was like, I can do that. And that was fine at the beginning. I don't think it ever got to a point where I was like, this is really bad. But it might have made me analyze my mental health more in hindsight. Because I was falling into some high school habits when that went, this might have never been very healthy. But like, who was to say that you weren't staring at me 24/7. So you didn't know that I would do my homework at the beginning of the day and stare at a wall for 4 hours. Or go directly to reading as escapism.
I was working, and you were constantly reading, so that was great.
And I was reading constantly, but now I see some of those as escapism habits that might not be healthy to read 3 books in a day. It's not like bad for you. Like, if that's good,
academically, it's fine.
Academically, you're excelling, but maybe you're depressed. So, like, I started falling into some high school habits. I'd gotten more regular sleep starting in college than I've ever had in my entire life. But I'm a natural...
This child has never slept through the night. She's 25.
I am a natural insomniac. And I guess having the constant mental exercise that I could not reschedule or somehow put off or do all at once, because real life gives you time, and like especially college gives you times where you have to wait to do a certain thing, and it gives you time where you have to be doing something. That homeschooling is far more flexible. So having a sort of schedule that is not exactly like stringent, but has mandatory times of work, exhausted me mentally in a way that put me to sleep more often.
Okay.
And had me sleeping through the night more regularly.
Well, that was a plus.
That went away during COVID.
So the insomnia came back.
So a lot of the insomnia came back. And I was like, hello, son. No, I did not go to sleep. I guess it's time to try to force my way into unconsciousness through bird song. Did I read all night? Haven't done that in a minute. What do you mean I binged 3 TV series by accident? I haven't had time to do that for a while.
Well, how did you do compared to your friends in your industry?
Oh, they were not doing well. A lot of them are introvert extroverts who a lot of theater people.
Most theater people are extroverted introverts.
We can extrovert on command. Which we're introverts who can extrovert on command pretty easily and can enjoy that if we're in the right mood to be doing so. So a lot of people went home and they were like, hey, I can cancel my plans. And then after like 3...
Wasn't that great? That first month was amazing.
And then...
Well, we were both... You and I were both doing very interesting projects.
We were doing very interesting work.
That got canceled.
We were sad about that in the beginning. But we settled in to just a very much...
doing Cinderella. You were about to do Cabaret.
Yeah, we were both... But we were both upset at the beginning, but we both settled into...
We were both like, that was going to be a lot of work.
We both settled into what felt very normal for us. Just like a lot of time being at home and doing work remotely.
We both make costumes. She's a professional. I'm a hobbyist.
A lot of other people were very depressed about getting their stuff canceled, and then they didn't settle in the same way I did because they've never just sat at home and
they were never still.
They were never still like that, and they never had to entertain themselves like that. I have, especially as someone who feels physical pain from being bored. Like, I cannot handle mental stagnation. I'm very good at entertaining myself. Lots of people do not have to entertain themselves that way. If they need to entertain themselves, they go do something. They did not have the option of going to do something. But so, I won't say that COVID was a very mentally healthy time for anyone. But I think I had the background to handle it in a way that a lot of people just don't. Because especially at the beginning, I was like, it's very funny to watch all these people fall apart.
Flailing.
Just like literally having meltdowns at what is basically just my childhood.
I don't know how I feel about this.
I was like, because... Looking about it the way my COVID went, I went places 2 times a week that were doctor's appointments. And if I had something that I had to do outside of the house, that's when I did them. That replicates my childhood exactly. 2 times a week, I leave the house. And I pretty much do everything I have to do on those 2 days. So it replicated my childhood almost exactly. So I was like, this is entirely normal. There is nothing wrong or even weird about this. Except the fact that when you do go out, you are risking your health. That was a bit stressful. But I was going to doctor's appointments. And so those were places that were already pretty tight about procedure. Because I had broken my knee. At the beginning of the year, right before COVID happened, I had physical therapy. Sometimes I went to the chiropractor because I was doing this all day back at a computer, unlike which was at least different from what I had been doing the year before, which I had been out of the house to work far more than usual. Like a lot of
transitioned to working online the rest of that year, Dan.
And I transitioned to working online for the rest of the year. So there was a lot less running around in my day-to-day schedule than the year before. But truly, it was just like reverting back to high school.
So when COVID happened, your career was literally
Beginning
had
to
hit a
take
trajectory.
off. Yeah.
And it full stopped.
Yeah.
But I feel like watching you use that time to strategize. And now that people have like, forget it, COVID's going to happen, we're all going to die anyway. And
that is the
that's
mindset.
what's going on right now.
It's sort of like,
that's what's going on. And people have gone back to normal. Tell me how, like, you seem to be even better than you were when COVID was starting.
It seems like it has picked up right from where I left off, which I appreciate greatly. I think a lot of that is due to the summer program that I did.
The fellowship.
The fellowship I did over the summer. I had done an internship right out of college with the Hanger Theater in Ithaca, New York. And because we ain't doing nothing else. Yeah, at some point during COVID, I was hit up to do a Zoom show for the Hanger. And again, since nobody
was costumed on Zoom. No, you haven't, but she has. It's interesting.
It sucks. No one likes it. Nobody likes doing that process. It's a very hands-on process that you're suddenly doing through a screen, and it's very much like, I can't touch you. I can't
touch your clothes.
I can't touch you. I can't touch your clothes. I'm used to having my hands on people generally, and then where I'm like, excuse me, this is necessary. I'm only touching you as necessary, but like. I'm used to being very hands-on with people, and it's especially that show. I designed out of their closets, not even like I shipped
she
things. She literally
was like, "Hi, this is my idea. What you got in your closet? Okay, put it on. Okay, now pop your collar. Oh, you don't know how to pop your collar. I can't pop your collar for you."
Yeah, I did a show that was set in the 70s, and I was like, I'm glad that was in style recently, because otherwise this would be wild. And so I put together what you do, your vision, your dream idea, and then you go, what do we got? And I looked at what they pretty much took out their entire closets for me, and I put it together, and everyone went, that looks fantastic. And I was like, by the grace of God, this came together, because it shouldn't have. But yeah, so I did. So I had done that over 2020, and so by the time they were wrapping up to do their summer, because we did outside theater for the 2021 summer season.
Summer 2021.
It's hard to remember what year it is. I had a problem with time before, and I have major problems with time now. They were like, hey, what you doing? And I was like, the answer is nothing, like everyone else. And they was like, apply. And I was like, okay. And then I got accepted. So I already had connections there. And I guess right before then I had gotten contacted to do GGC Aurora show,
which is the theater everyone wants to work for in our area.
In the area, the Gwinnett area, that is sort of one of the main. Is it a community theater? Is it?
It's
semi-regional.
It's. I'm trying to think of how they bill it. It's Georgia's only professional theater. That's how they bill it.
Okay.
All right.
I was like, that people are getting paid. So it's not technically community theater.
No, it's professional.
It's professional theater. It's not quite a regional theater.
It's regional.
Is it?
It's regional.
Their format is not the same as a lot of regional
my audience doesn't know how theater works.
I can't explain this to you right now. We're just going to cut out a bunch of that. That was very technical conversation. There were some contacts I'd made over 2020 that when I rolled back into Georgia picked up pretty easily.
Steamroll.
And so I've been working off of that ever since, which has been pretty constant, where my career was going at the end of the year, the beginning of the year in 2020, and got sort of cut off.
The difference is that year you were tutoring and costuming. This year, you're costuming multiple shows.
Yes.
That's better.
It is better.
And you've auditioned to be on stage.
And I've got...
Because she is an actress.
Yes, I do.
That face. That's an actress right there.
Anyways. So, like, I'm not... we can't... we can only sort of what is the word I'm looking for? Speculate about how it would have gone if COVID wouldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I would have figured out consistent work like that, and maybe I wouldn't have. I probably wouldn't have signed up for the fellowship program with the hanger, and so that's 6-7 shows that would.
Well, what this is. Your trajectory is based off a weird thing that happened as we went into COVID, where racially a bunch of things blew up.
Yes.
And then in Atlanta, there was a huge, and actually nationally, a huge come to Jesus in the theater world where they were like, Black artists aren't getting treated properly. So right now in this space, theaters are trying to include Black artists, and you're getting swept up in that. And I'm not mad because resume.
Yeah. I'm like, you have to question.
And we have gone way off topic.
Yes.
This is good.
Well, you have to question motive sometime, and you squint. But you take the job because they're paying you money, and you're an artist and you're poor, and you squint and you sort of like assess their hearts,
right?
But you sort of go from there. And so far, the people I have worked with seem to be coming from all the right places.
Right.